The awareness made her pulse quicken in ways she had not anticipated. And Jae, for all his calculated calm, seemed to betray a subtle awareness as well. He would occasionally let his gaze linger on her just a moment too long, or offer a smirk that was both infuriating and tantalizing. Their banter took on a teasing undertone, flirtation mingling seamlessly with their tactical planning. By the time the yacht pulled into a hidden cove, the night fully descended. Monaco shimmered like liquid gold, indifferent to the chaos and danger lurking behind its glittering facade. Ariana leaned against the railing, staring out at the city lights, her mind conflicted. She had always controlled her emotions, used them strategically, but now, she felt something unpredictable, something that neither danger nor ego could contain. Jae stood beside her, close enough that she could feel the warmth radiating from him, but not close enough to cross any lines they had yet agreed to. He was silent, watching the city, but she sensed the subtle shift, the smallest crack in his usual impervious exterior. "Do you ever?" Ariana started, then hesitated, unsure how much to reveal. "Do you ever wonder if there's more to all this than just survival?" Jae's jaw tightened ever so slightly. "Sometimes," he admitted, voice low, "but there's no room for distraction. Not now." She met his gaze, and in the dark, she saw the shadow of something unspoken. Desire, tension, and perhaps the faintest trace of vulnerability. The night ended without incident, but the air between them had changed irreversibly. They had survived another attack, coordinated with lethal precision, and learned to respect, and even rely on each other's strengths. And yet, the closeness, the adrenaline, and the shared danger had sparked something dangerous. Ariana began questioning her feelings, realizing she might not be able to keep her emotions neatly compartmentalized. And Jae, for the first time, let his icy control slip just slightly, revealing the shadow of a man who could feel, who could be tempted, who could, perhaps, be captivated by someone as fierce, audacious, and unpredictable as Ariana Cruz. As Monaco slept beneath them, a city of glittering lights and hidden threats, one truth became undeniable. Survival required partnership, but attraction. That was something neither of them could plan for. The night air of Monaco was crisp, scented with the faint tang of salt and the subtle sweetness of expensive perfume drifting from the gala crowd. Lanterns and chandeliers illuminated the terrace of the Hotel de Paris, casting golden reflections over the marble floors. Inside, the room shimmered with diamonds, silk gowns, and tuxedos that exuded power. It was the perfect stage for both celebration and scheming, and Ariana Cruz was determined to navigate it on her terms. Dressed in a sleek midnight blue gown that clung to her form, Ariana stepped onto the terrace with the kind of grace that could command attention without demanding it. The folds of her dress swayed with her movements as she surveyed the crowd. The gala was a charity event, publicly glamorous but privately a network of underworld information, where alliances were made and broken beneath the glittering chandeliers. Jae appeared beside her, impeccably tailored in a black tuxedo that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. His dark eyes scanned the room with a predator's precision, and for the first time, Ariana noticed a subtle softness in the way he observed the crowd. Not weakness, but awareness of subtle nuances most missed. "You're late," she murmured under her breath, though her pulse betrayed more than just annoyance. "I timed my arrival," he replied smoothly, voice low. "Precision matters. And yet you couldn't avoid making an entrance." She shot back, a sly curve to her lips. Typical. They moved through the crowd as a unit, a partnership forged out of necessity but layered with subtle tension. Eyes followed them, powerful figures noting their proximity, their mutual awareness, the unspoken chemistry that crackled like static electricity. Jae guided her deftly past certain groups, whispered instructions that kept them steps ahead of prying ears. Ariana followed, mimicking his precision but adding her own flair, the rhythm of their movement a delicate dance between strategy and subtle intimacy. As the evening progressed, Ariana realized how deeply intertwined their partnership had become. Their conversations were layered, tactical yet playful, each banter carrying hints of attraction, that neither would openly acknowledge. A slight touch of his hand on her elbow, a fleeting brush against her wrist, each instance a spark, a whisper of something neither had expected to feel in the midst of danger. The gala was more than social theater. It was also a battlefield. Intelligence from multiple sources confirmed that the rival gang intended to use the event as a cover for a major move. A weapons shipment hidden in plain sight, masked by the glamour of the evening. Ariana and Jae had to act quickly and strategically, ensuring both survival and the success of their missions. "You're reckless," Jae murmured as they approached a VIP balcony. "Move with purpose." "And you're too controlled," Ariana countered, leaning slightly against him as they surveyed the crowd. "Sometimes, chaos has its advantages." He raised a brow, and she felt the thrill of his gaze lingering on her. In that moment, they were more than allies. They were a carefully calibrated machine, synchronized in thought and action. Yet the tension between control and desire simmered beneath every word, every glance. The first major confrontation came in the form of a discreet but aggressive move by the rival gang. A waiter, carrying a tray of champagne, subtly signaled an unusual delivery at a storage room within the hotel. Ariana and Jae shared a glance, a silent acknowledgement of the danger and an unspoken command to act. They moved together through the corridors, their bodies brushing occasionally. Ariana felt a surge of electricity each time their fingers grazed. The sound of their synchronized footsteps echoed off marble walls as they approached the storage room. Jae produced a compact weapon with precision, and Ariana's eyes sharpened with focus. The room was dark, lit only by the faint glow of security monitors. Crates labeled innocuous goods masked the weapons inside. Their rival operatives were already there, unloading quickly. Without hesitation, Ariana and Jae launched their attack, coordinating with silent gestures and rapid movements that reflected both training and trust. Ariana ducked under a swinging arm, rolling to intercept an attacker. Jae was immediately at her side, covering her with precise shots that disabled their enemies without lethal force. They moved in a rhythm that was almost intimate, their breathing and movements syncing as if they were extensions of one another. When the confrontation ended, they were alone in the quiet room, adrenaline still thrumming through their veins. Ariana leaned against a crate, chest heaving, her hair damp with sweat. Jae stood nearby, his dark eyes soft but alert, scanning for remaining threats. "You're reckless," he said, voice low, almost a growl. "And you're impressively efficient," she replied, meeting his gaze. Their proximity was unavoidable, the space between them charged with tension neither wanted to name. For a heartbeat, the world narrowed to just the two of them. The danger had receded, leaving only the magnetic pull between them. Ariana's hand brushed against Jae's as she reached for a piece of intelligence. He didn't pull away. Instead, his fingers lingered slightly, their contact brief yet electrifying. We should," Ariana started, but the words caught in her throat. Jae's jaw tightened imperceptibly. "Now is not the time," he said, a trace of vulnerability hidden beneath his composed exterior. "We finish this first." They shared a fleeting, almost intimate moment. Eyes locking, breaths mingling, a silent acknowledgement of feelings they weren't ready to admit. Then, footsteps echoed down the corridor. Danger was never far behind. With a shared nod, they sprang into action once more, abandoning the unspoken tension for survival and strategy. Later, back on the yacht, they reviewed the night's events in silence. The adrenaline had subsided, leaving behind a charged stillness. Ariana stared out at the glimmering waters of the Mediterranean, Jae beside her, the subtle warmth of his presence so close that it both comforted and tormented her. Her mind wandered, unbidden, to the fleeting touches, the shared glances, the intensity of their proximity. She realized, with a mixture of fear and excitement, that she was beginning to feel something dangerous, something personal. And she knew, deep down, that Jae felt it too, though his icy exterior remained mostly intact. Just as she was lost in thought, a message arrived on her phone. Her pulse jumped as she read it. "They've moved the shipment. It's bigger than we thought. Someone has betrayed you. Ariana's eyes met Jae's, and for the first time, there was a flicker of unspoken fear and concern in his gaze. The trust they had built, fragile and newly formed, was about to be tested in ways neither could have anticipated. The night ended with both of them silent, each lost in thought. Monaco shimmered beneath them, beautiful, dangerous, and indifferent. And as they prepared for what would undoubtedly be a violent confrontation, one truth became undeniable. The line between attraction and partnership was blurring, and neither could ignore the pull that bound them together. The night in Monaco was alive with danger. Neon lights reflected off the wet cobblestone streets, mingling with the distant hum of sirens and the faint roar of engines. Rain had begun to fall in soft sheets, drumming against rooftops and slicking the city's narrow alleys. Ariana Cruz crouched behind a sleek black sports car, her eyes scanning the shadows, pulse thrumming. Every instinct in her body screamed that the rival gang had escalated. They were closing in, and this time there would be no room for mistakes. Beside her, Jae Kim was a study in controlled intensity. His dark eyes moved constantly, calculating, anticipating. He didn't speak, didn't even flinch as he scanned the alleyways. The calm precision he exuded made Ariana's heart race. Not with fear, but with something far more dangerous. Desire, tension, and the thrill of proximity. "We have to move now," she said, voice low, clipped. "They've found the shipment, and they know we're onto them." Jae's gaze flicked to her, sharp and assessing. "Agreed. We go together. No splitting up." Ariana's pulse jumped at the possessiveness in his tone. She blinked rapidly, unsure if it was fear or something else. "Together?" she repeated, and for a fleeting moment, the word carried weight beyond mere strategy. They moved like shadows through the rain-slick streets, avoiding security cameras and blending into the sparse crowd. The shipment was hidden in a warehouse on the harbor, heavily guarded. This wasn't just a heist. They were walking into the lion's den. But both of them had no choice. Their families, their reputations, even their survival depended on what happened next. The first confrontation was violent and immediate. The gang's men emerged from hidden alcoves, armed and ready. Ariana ducked instinctively behind a crate, rolling into position as Jae moved like a predator, disabling attackers with precision strikes. Their movements were fluid, seamless, like they had danced this deadly dance before, though every heartbeat screamed otherwise. At one point, Ariana narrowly avoided a knife aimed at her side, only to find Jae's hand gripping her wrist, yanking her behind him. Their bodies collided, pressed together, breaths mingling for a fraction of a second too long. "Careful," he muttered, his voice low, almost intimate. "I'm careful," she snapped, though her chest heaved and her mind betrayed her. That closeness, the heat, the electricity, it was impossible to ignore. The fight intensified. Ariana grabbed a steel pipe and swung it with lethal accuracy, taking down one of the gang members. Jae's gunfire covered her flanks, each movement calculated, protective. They were in perfect sync, yet every touch, every shared glance, carried a weight neither could deny. In the chaos, a rival operative lunged at Ariana from behind. Jae reacted instantly, pushing her out of the way and taking a shallow cut on his shoulder in the process. Blood seeped through his sleeve, but he barely flinched. Ariana's heart twisted at the sight. "You idiot!" she hissed, her voice trembling between anger and worry. She grabbed his jacket, examining the wound. "You could've." "I'm fine," he interrupted, tone clipped but laced with something she hadn't heard before. Concern. A flicker of jealousy passed through her. Concern? For me? The thought made her chest tighten, and she realized, with undeniable clarity, that her feelings for him had shifted from intrigue to something far deeper. The battle raged on. Explosions from a nearby storage crate illuminated the warehouse in blinding flashes, smoke filling the air. Amidst the chaos, their hands found each other. Not by accident, but instinct. Their fingers laced, a lifeline of trust amidst the madness. "I can't lose you," Ariana admitted, voice raw as she ducked behind a steel beam. You won't, Jae replied, eyes locking onto hers, his voice low, almost a growl. And then, in the brief pause between firefights, adrenaline and raw emotion took over. He pulled her close, pressing their foreheads together. I don't want to hide it anymore. Ariana's breath hitched. Neither do I, she whispered. And then, amidst gunfire and chaos, they kissed, fierce, desperate, and consuming. The world outside their shared moment, the danger, the violence, faded into a blur. But the reprieve was short-lived. A new wave of gang members emerged, forcing them to break apart. They fought side by side, adrenaline coursing through veins already ignited by desire. Every movement, every strike, every glance reinforced the bond forming between them. Trust, reliance, and undeniable attraction. Finally, after what felt like hours compressed into minutes, they stood over the last of the attackers. The shipment was secured, the rival gang decimated, or at least temporarily thwarted. Rain fell harder, washing the blood and sweat from their bodies, leaving only the ache of exhaustion and the lingering heat of their connection. Ariana pressed a hand to her chest, her breath ragged. We did it, she said, disbelief mixing with exhilaration. Jae stood close, his dark hair plastered by rain, his jaw tense but his eyes softening. We did, he agreed, voice low. His gaze dropped to her lips, then back to her eyes, a silent acknowledgement of the kiss they had shared, the confessions they had whispered amidst fire and danger. They didn't have time to savor it. The city around them was alive with threats, and both knew the rival gang could regroup at any moment. But in that fleeting instant, they allowed themselves the truth. They were no longer just allies. They were dangerously, irrevocably drawn to each other. Ariana glanced at Jae, her mind torn between strategy and desire. I didn't expect this. I wasn't prepared for this. But I can't ignore it. Jae's hand brushed hers again, almost tenderly. We need to be ready, he said, his tone serious, but the softness in his eyes betrayed the facade. Yes, she whispered, but so do we. As the storm raged over Monaco, they stood together on the docks, victory fleeting and incomplete. Somewhere in the shadows, their enemies were regrouping. Somewhere in the heart of both their worlds, new challenges were taking shape. And one undeniable truth burned between them more fiercely than any threat. For the first time, Ariana and Jae knew that their connection, born in danger, sharpened by survival, and ignited by desire, was a fire that neither strategy nor caution could contain. But as they watched the dark waters of the harbor ripple beneath the storm, neither could predict what the next move would bring. A new betrayal, a new enemy, or perhaps even the complications of the hearts they were no longer willing to deny. Monaco was beautiful, dangerous, and unpredictable. And for Ariana Cruz and Min Jae Kim, the real challenge was only beginning. The morning sun bathed Monaco in a gentle glow, a stark contrast to the stormy chaos of the past days. The city's streets sparkled under the golden light, the yachts swaying calmly in the harbor, and the scent of the Mediterranean mingled with the faint aroma of fresh pastries drifting from nearby cafes. For Ariana Cruz and Min Jae Kim, however, the calm was deceptive. A brief lull before the final acts of a deadly game had to be played. The events of the past week had left their marks. Bruises, scrapes, sleepless nights, and adrenaline-fueled decisions had pushed both of them to the edge, but also closer than either had anticipated. What began as an uneasy alliance had transformed into something far more complicated, powerful, and undeniable. Ariana stood on the balcony of her suite, sipping a cup of coffee and gazing at the sparkling harbor below. The weight of responsibility was always present. She carried her family's legacy on her shoulders, but for the first time, she felt less alone. Jae emerged from the bedroom behind her, impeccably dressed despite the long hours and high-stakes operations they'd endured. You're thinking too much, he said softly, stepping beside her. Am I? She replied, her tone playful but contemplative. Or maybe I'm finally realizing how complicated things are when danger and other things are involved. Jae's gaze swept the horizon, then settled on her. Other things? Ariana met his dark eyes, her heart skipping. You know, feelings. For a moment, he was silent, the usual calm mask softened by something warmer. Something that spoke of trust, desire, and connection. Feelings, he repeated, the word tasting foreign on his tongue but not unwelcome. They had survived bullets, betrayals, and the shadow of rival gangs. They had fought together, bickered together, and, in moments of rare intimacy, revealed the vulnerabilities each carefully hid behind power and precision. Now, standing together, there was a quiet understanding. Strength could coexist with softness, ambition with love. Their final challenge came unexpectedly. A lead had surfaced. The rival gang's remnants had regrouped at a hidden warehouse on the outskirts of Monaco, planning a desperate strike to reclaim the lost shipment. Ariana and Jae knew the stakes. This could undo everything they had fought for. The operation was meticulous. Jae mapped out precise entry points and exit strategies, while Ariana's instincts guided them through contingencies the plan hadn't accounted for. Together, they moved like a single entity, anticipating threats, protecting each other, and neutralizing the remaining gang members efficiently but decisively. In one moment, a gunman emerged unexpectedly from a shadowed corridor. Ariana raised her weapon, but Jae acted instinctively, stepping in front of her and deflecting the attacker with calculated force. Their eyes met, momentarily, wordlessly, and Ariana realized just how deeply she trusted him, not just for survival but with her heart. After securing the warehouse and ensuring the remaining threat was neutralized, they stood amidst the wreckage, the adrenaline fading into a quiet satisfaction. Monaco's glittering skyline was visible through the broken windows, a reminder that life, like the city, was resilient, beautiful, and full of possibilities. Jae turned to her, his expression unreadable at first, then softening. "We make a good team," he admitted, voice low. "Better than I expected." Ariana smiled, her chest warm with pride and something more. "Better than I expected too," she replied, stepping closer. Her fingers brushed his, tentatively at first, then firmly, a silent acknowledgement of all that had passed. The soft intimacy between them was a stark contrast to the chaos they had endured, yet it felt right. The tension that had electrified every glance, every touch, now blossomed into something deeper. Trust, respect, and love. "You know," Ariana murmured, tilting her head to meet his gaze, "I never thought I'd let someone in. Not like this." Jae's dark eyes softened, and for the first time, he allowed himself to be vulnerable. "Neither did I," he admitted. "But you make it easy to want it." The words, simple yet profound, hung between them. And then, without hesitation, Ariana closed the distance, pressing her lips to his in a kiss that was both tender and fierce. A culmination of fear, desire, and the intense week they had shared. It was a kiss that spoke of passion, relief, and an unspoken promise. No matter what came next, they would face it together. The city below sparkled, indifferent to their declarations. Yet within their small world, Monaco had become something entirely theirs. They lingered in the embrace, savoring the warmth, the comfort, the sense of unity that had developed from chaos and danger. Finally, they stepped back, hands still entwined, and gazed out at the horizon. The challenges weren't entirely gone. There would always be threats, complications, and rivalries, but they faced them now as a unit. Partners, lovers, equals in ambition and heart. Ariana rested her head briefly against his shoulder, a small, contented smile playing on her lips. "I guess we're a little unstoppable together," she whispered. Jae smirked, dark eyes glinting. "A little, a lot," she corrected, nudging him playfully. And there, on the balcony overlooking Monaco, the city of glimmering lights, danger, and endless possibility, they stood together, united by survival, bound by trust, and ignited by a love forged in fire. They faced the future not as two individuals clashing in ego and ambition, but as a pair unstoppable in power, heart, and devotion. Monaco shimmered beneath them, vast and eternal, And for Ariana Cruz and Min Jae Kim, the world beyond the harbor was theirs to navigate, together. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the story, leave us a comment. Also share and subscribe to our channel, and click on the notification bell to get notified whenever a new story is made.